There are tons of games set in post-apocalyptic world. Fallout, Stalker, The Last of Us, Days Gone, and even some you have probably never heard of. But today we are in Moscow's subway, which can only mean one thing. We're in Metro 2033. You know how it goes, some nukes go off, radiation spreads, and suddenly it's all wastelands and mutants. But today we are not blasting megas now. Instead we are diving into the food industry of the cursed, rusty subway. What do the locals eat? What kind of restaurants do they have? Tasty, healthy, or just slightly radioactive? Let's find out. The game starts with a flash forward after a short skirmish with mutants. We are thrown back in time. Suddenly we find ourselves in closet at Vdnh metro station. Our first glimpse at the neighborhood. Our stepfather tells us strange things are happening in the tunnels. The Dark Ones have been attacking their station more and more often. Then we meet Hunter and another skirmish. Suddenly, their station comes under attack by the Dark Ones. Things escalate quickly, and Hunter leaves the station to go after them. Before leaving, he tells us if he doesn't come back, we must go to police. Alright, our buddies are waiting for us on the platform, and for the first time, we catch a breath of freedom. Vdnh is the first station we explore, and there is a lot to talk about here. Sadly, the game doesn't let us roam freely. The explorable area is pretty limited. There is no real dining area, but you will spot a few people sitting at the tables, eating something. Still, there is a public kitchen. Crates full of mushrooms, maybe champignons, are stacked all over the place. And if you are stuck in the subway, mushrooms are one of the easiest things to grow. Judging by the amount, they are clearly a big deal down here. In the book the game's based on, people even brew tea from dried mushrooms. You can guess what that tastes like. It's basically hot champignon broth. Aside from mushrooms, there are also plenty of pigs at the station. Their carcasses hang from the ceiling and their parts are sold at the market. What do these pigs even eat? Mushrooms? Champignons alone don't make for a varied diet. Let's assume there are more vegetables around, either grown here or traded from other stations. Okay, time to hit to Rishka station with the traders. On the road, our squad was hit by an anomaly and swarmed by mutants. Thanks to our guns, we made it to the station in one piece. After a couple vodka shots,
Artyom, to your health.
we found ourselves in the station bar. It's a really decent place with beverages and some food. This place will fill you up for sure. Besides this, the bar has its own entrance, separated from the main station area, but unfortunately it doesn't have its own kitchen or a separate place for cooking. Although the tableware has seen better days, it looks clean, as much as this world allows. There is even a public sink in the corner, peak hygiene by metro standards. Speaking of cleanliness behind the barman keeps bottles labeled red poison. Considering the main liquor here is called cat ratcher, I honestly can't tell if he's keeping the place clean or just has a very peculiar sense of humor. Plastic tables where customers sit don't seem trustworthy, but you can spot that each table has its own lighting due to the lack of general lighting in the bar and, of course, ashtrays. Very thoughtful of the bar's owner. Just like in any proper Wild West salon, there is an old upright piano sitting in the corner. And yes, you can actually play it, because even in the metro, music still matters. Don't expect Chopin though. I doubt anyone's tuned it since the barns fell. Well, let's move on. The station's under lockdown, so moving forward isn't an option. As we stroll through the station, a small ragged boy approaches us and says some shady characters been asking around. He goes by the name Bourbon. After a quick chat in quiet corner over what looks like homemade food, he suggests we head to the next station, Prospect Mira, through a service tunnel, and after that to Sukharevskaya station. Not like we have got a choice. Let's roll. Along the way, we will run into bandits and those lovely mutants we have already met, and just where our asses get way too close to the fire, we finally reach Prospect Mira station. While Bourbon went off to handle some business, we took the chance to look around the station. Prospect Mira station is incredible. It's got a big market with a surprising variety of goods. There is a stall selling pork and another one stacked with mushrooms, the staple food for locals as we know by now. On top of that, you can buy a couple of rats at the market. At least 2 cages are on display. Cheap protein if you can't afford pork. Of course, a station this rich has its own bar. It's a bit bigger than the first one we visited. There is plenty of space with a few of those familiar plastic tables and a long bar counter attached to the wall. Behind the bar there is a large liquor cabinet stocked with a wide variety of drinks. The owner also managed to squeeze in a small cooking area and even brought in some extra stuff. But don't rush to book a table for 2 just yet. There are some serious discipline issues with the staff. The bartender drinks on the job and ends up passed out behind the counter. The new world, the old problems. Speaking of problems, those dishes are looking pretty gritty, and as for washing your hands, you will have to walk all the way to the other end of the station. This bar had every chance to outperform the first one we visited, but fell victim to an utterly absurd management style. Alright, let's move on. To reach the next station, Sukharevskaya, we have to cross Moscow's radioactive surface. On the way, we will run into mutants, both flying and crawling, but they are not taking us down that easy. We fight our way to ventilation shaft that leads to the station. Once we are underground, we find the station is under bandit control. Bourbon tries to negotiate, but it doesn't end well for him, which means we are back to shooting bandits. At least something good comes out of this mess. Say hello to Khan, our new buddy. With Khan, who feels more like a shaman than a fighter, we push through ghost-infested tunnels toward Turgenevskaya station, but instead of safe haven, we find a cursed place under constant siege from mutants. To help the last defenders hold the line, we blow up the tunnels. Then Khan shows us the way to Kuznetsky Most and tells us to find Andrei Kuznets, the one who can help us move forward. Upon arrival, we discover the station is under communist control. The atmosphere is far from welcoming and the area we can explore is even smaller than on other stations. Still, I've got something to show you. Behind that inconspicuous fence is what looks like a communal canteen. H-style picnic table suggests it can seat quite a few people. Unfortunately, dinner's already over, and speaking of dinner, the only thing on the menu is canned food. A bit of letdown. With our sightseeing wrapped up, we climb aboard a handcar that takes us away from the station. Unfortunately, we don't get to pick the destination and end up right in the middle of the conflict between 2 of the metro's biggest factions, the communists and the Nazis. Of course, the Nazis are unhappy to see us, and we quickly get captured. Just when we are on the verge of death, 2 fighters save us, Ullman and Pavel, members of Sparta, the same organization Hunter belonged to at the beginning of the game. Together with them, we must make our way to Polis. Our newly formed team splits up. Pavel and I jump on a rail car with the mounted machine gun, and suddenly it feels like we are in a Mad Max movie, racing against the Nazis. Unfortunately, Pavel gets killed, and the rail car doesn't last long either. By this point, I was completely exhausted and revealed to stumble upon an inhabited station, but not for long. Paveletska soon came under a mutant attack. After a short firefight, we were left on our own again. Still, I held on to some hope. The station had been inhabited after all, but that hope quickly faded. What I found was nothing but ruins. No bar, no canteen, not even a trace of the life that once was. On the way, we rescue a little boy, Sasha, and once again end up on the surface, surrounded by Nazis. Up until this point, the food situation in the Metro 2033 universe felt at least somewhat believable, if not exactly realistic. But then I saw this. What were the developers trying to say? That the Nazis decided to have a picnic in the middle of radioactive ruins? I don't envy the poor guy who dared to eat the radioactive porridge, or whatever that was supposed to be. After gunning down a few more packs of Nazis, we finally reunite with Ullman. Together we board the railcar and make it to Polis in one piece. Polis is made up of Arbatskaya, Alexandrovsky Sad, Biblioteka Lenina and Borovitskaya stations, but we only get to explore a small section of Arbatskaya. This is the last and the most luxurious bar we will find in the metro. Unfortunately, there is no separate kitchen, and the bar itself is rather small, with just two fine hardwood tables. They even have live music here. Both the musician and his instrument made it through. A lone bottle of port hints at the wealth of their alcohol selection, along with a glowing display of backlit bottles that look like green hard sandies. The only thing that spoils the scene is once again a drunk bartender happily drinking with the guests. One curious thing about this station is that its lower level is flooded, and the locals aren't afraid to fish there. Like everything else down here, the fish is probably laced with radiation, but the real surprise is that it exists at all. So some metro dwellers actually get to spice up their diet with a bit of seafood. Unfortunately, the rest of the game doesn't treat us to any more food-related surprises. After meeting Miller, the leader of Sparta, in Polis, we report their tragedy at our home station to the Police Council. They refuse to help, but Miller steps in and proposes a plan: destroy the nest of the Dark Ones using the last remaining missiles in Moscow, using nukes after nuclear apocalypse. Guess no one learned a thing. To launch the missiles, we need to reach D6 bunker. We dig up the blueprint in the Lenin library and hid there. After confirming the missiles are intact, we claim the Ostankino Tower from the game's opening scene, mark the target and wipe out the Dark Ones. The game does drop hints along the way that maybe this isn't the best idea, and that the Dark Ones might actually be trying to communicate, but still, this is the canonical ending. Roll credits. If we are talking about the food industry in Metro 2033, it's hard to call it good. The average Metro dweller's diet may be calorie sufficient, but remains extremely limited. The lack of fresh vegetables, absence of sunlight for obvious reasons, and scarcity of meat could lead to weakened immunity, dental problems, skin issues, and brittle bones. Without additional supplements, which might still be found on the surface, long-term survival on such a diet would be impossible. I really enjoy the bars in Metro. Each one has its own vibe and a quirky charm that makes it stand out. Honestly, I wish there were more of them. So yeah, bon appetit, Metro style. Just don't forget your Geiger counter.